Greetings, everyone. My name is Mario Villanueva, and I'm the Executive Director for the Washington State Catholic Conference. Thank you for joining us here at the Cornerstone Catholic Conference with the theme of Forming Disciples for Life and Justice. Thank you for joining us for this ministry workshop. The title of my talk is Year-Round Advocacy and Conscience Formation. So thanks very much for joining us. I'm going to start my talk off a little bit with telling you about the mission of the Washington State Catholic Conference. The State Catholic Conference is the common voice of the Catholic bishops of the Archdiocese of Seattle, the Diocese of Spokane, and the Diocese of Yakima. And our mission is rooted in the Catholic community's belief in the inviolate dignity of the human person, its tradition of service to the most vulnerable of society, and its firm commitment to a just and peaceful world. The State Catholic Conference attempts to identify the moral and human dimensions of public issues in order to help Catholics and all people of goodwill to seek the common good. And that idea of the common good is going to be a theme that I'm going to relate to as part of my talk here today. So the question can be, how do we as Catholics respond to human needs? We do in several ways. One is charity, providing direct and indirect service. And many of us know about the good works of Catholic groups such as St. Vincent de Paul and Catholic Community Services in providing direct and indirect services of charity. Also, the other way we meet needs is we advocate for life and justice. We seek structural change through advocacy. And Pope St. John Paul II, I think, said it in a very good way. He said, "But charity is not enough. You will want to seek out the structural reasons which foster or cause the different forms of poverty, and that would include injustice." And so as part of this, my talk, the theme of my talk, the title of my talk, includes the phrase conscience formation. So what is that? The Catholic bishops say this: we recognize that the responsibility to make choices in political life rests with each individual in light of a properly formed conscience. That is from Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship. That's a bishop's document. So what is conscience formation? Well, let's go to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And it states in Article 6, Roman numerals 1 and 2, the following. In item 1777, it says, moral conscience, present at the heart of the person, enjoins him or her at the appropriate moment to do good and to avoid evil. In item 1783, it says, conscience must be informed and moral judgment enlightened. In item 1784, it further states, the education of the conscience is a lifelong task. In 1785, it says, in the formation of conscience, the Word of God is the light for our path. We must assimilate it in faith and prayer and put it into practice. So God's holy Word, the Scripture, is what we can really look to for helping form our consciences. And finally, again, in 1785, it says, we are assisted by the gifts of the Holy Spirit, aided by the witness or advice of others, and guided by the authoritative teaching of the Church. So we all know what the mission of the Catholic Church is, and that is to share the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, salvation to all. And this talk and conscience formation and advocacy are all part of that. Let's talk about faith and public policy. The bishops further state, in the Catholic tradition, responsible citizenship is a virtue. Participation in the political process is a moral obligation. In times past, I didn't want to get too involved with the political process or things related to politics. I thought to myself, well, I'm a good person. I don't do bad things. I try to raise my family in the best way I know how. And I go to church. Yet here our church is calling us through the voice of the bishops to go further, to participate in the political process they state is a moral obligation. It is increasingly apparent that major public issues have clear moral dimensions and that religious values have significant public consequences. That is also from Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship. That document further states, the believer's participation in the social discourse as such is not a matter of inducing others to accept our religious beliefs and our religious principles, but of persuading others that the implications of our religious beliefs are, in fact, beneficial to society on society's own terms, that they responsibly address the questions which are the subject of the social conversation. Some might point to a reference to what we hear about, something we hear about in the public square all the time, and that is, should church and state be separated? Here's what the bishops also say about the separation of church and state. Our nation is enriched and our tradition of pluralism enhanced when religious groups contribute to the debate over the policies that guide the nation. How does the church help the Catholic faithful to speak about political and social issues? What are the values, the principles that guide us on issues? This is very important. First of these are the key elements of Catholic social teaching. These are life and dignity of the human person from conception to natural death, call to family, community, and participation, rights and responsibilities, option for the poor and the vulnerable, the dignity of work and the rights of workers, solidarity, which means we are one human family, whatever our national, racial, ethnic, economic, and ideological differences. And then there's care for God's creation. We show our respect for the Creator by our stewardship of creation. So how can Catholics get involved? We are referencing in the topic of our talk today, year-round advocacy. So how can Catholics become involved in my agency, the Washington State Catholic Conference's advocacy efforts? First of all, you can join our network. You can sign up for our mailing list and be alerted to important issues that need your support. So please join our network, and we'll tell you how to do that in a few minutes. And you can take action. You can contact your legislators on important congressional, state, and other governmental issues. This phrase that we use, year-round advocacy, it really is nothing new. Advocacy promoted by Catholic teaching is being done around the country year-round already. And so what are the values what are the elements that support this year-round advocacy that we're talking about? First of all, it's a value-based advocacy based on the benefit of others. It is nonpartisan. It provides accurate information. It seeks grassroots involvement, and it seeks to provide excellent communication and coordination. So legislative issues, let's talk about that for a minute. Every year, the bishops of Washington come up with legislative priorities, and the topics that we address through the different types of lobbying and advocacy that we promote during the year, and especially during the legislative session, are budget, Catholic schools, children and families, criminal justice, economic justice, the environment, healthcare, housing, respect for life, long-term care. And these are just some of the issues that we want to tend to as part of our year-round advocacy efforts. So what can you do? Well, as I mentioned, you can join the WSCC Catholic Advocacy Network, and that is by going to www.wacatholics.org. Once you become part of the network, you'll get bulletins and alerts which provide you good information about different pieces of legislation, both local, state, and national. You'll get alerts when action needs to be taken, and you'll get instructions on how best to take that action, helpful tips, and lines of communication that you can simply follow to make your opinion known. We also have a year-round advocacy working group, a committee, that if you're interested in that, we can certainly have you join that, where we can plan and try to make our year-round advocacy efforts around the state stronger, better, and more networked. You can certainly advocate on issues of concern, as we mentioned. And some of the ways you can do that is by contacting local media, writing op-ed pieces, and letters to the editor. You can also take part in local legislative forums, and you can visit your legislators. Be sure they know you, and contact them at critical times by phone, email, or letter. So once again, thank you very much for joining us today, for being part of this workshop, and may God bless you and all our efforts around year-round advocacy and seeking to have well-formed consciences. God bless.
The following is from Archibald MacLeish upon seeing this picture of the Earth taken by the astronauts of the Apollo 8 mission. To see the Earth as it truly is, small and blue and beautiful in that eternal silence where it floats, is to see ourselves as riders on the Earth together, sisters and brothers on that bright loveliness in the eternal cold, sisters and brothers who know now they are truly sisters and brothers. Hello, I'm Patrick Barredo, Director of Social Outreach and Advocacy at St. James Cathedral. My 3 children are so excited to scare one another tomorrow as we celebrate Halloween. But to me, the scariest vision I have for their future is that they won't have a safe and healthy home anymore. We care for the Earth, our common home, not because God entrusted the care of the Earth into our stewardship, but because we live in a deep kinship with all of creation. St. Francis, whose memorial we celebrated earlier this month, refers to creation as his siblings, calling upon brother sun, sister moon. In his most recent encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis stresses that we are all brothers and sisters. All of creation are our brothers and sisters, and we live in kinship with one another. As Catholic social teaching guides us, we are called to live in solidarity with the Earth. We open our understanding of the call to family, community, and participation to include all life as part of our family. So I ask, can we transform our relationship with all of creation from one of stewardship, which implies a sense of having power over someone or something, to that of kinship, of caring and loving for one another as family? At St. James Cathedral, we are blessed to be able to cultivate an urban garden, which feeds those who come to us in hunger. We exercise our rights and responsibilities as faithful citizens to advocate for more just laws to protect our neighborhoods. We partner with our neighbors so that we can be educated on how to care for our common home. We consider St. James Cathedral's environmental impact and discern how we can become carbon neutral. We strive to be missionary disciples who encounter the Earth, who are disturbed by the devastating impacts of the climate crisis, and we consider ways how we can respond to the needs of the Earth. Here now, I invite some of my colleagues who share the work of caring for our common home to share the ways that they respond.
Hello, I'm Joan Bowers, a member of Seattle First Baptist Church. My involvement in the First Hill Movie Group grew out of my membership in the Social Justice Committee at SVdP. When Keith Irvin invited Imogen Williams and me to team up with St. James Cathedral's Outreach Committee to do a film program focused on climate change, I quickly agreed. I've been guided by our personal commitments and concerns about the fate of our environment and our and others' lives. Pope Francis's inspiring Laudato Si has not only guided us, but has also bound us together as collaborating members of our respective congregations in our efforts to bring about a meaningful response to this existential threat facing all of humanity.
Hello, I'm Mark Leahy, a parishioner here at St. James Cathedral and a member of the St. James Care for Creation Committee. I've been leading our efforts to help the Cathedral achieve a central environmental and social justice goal to become carbon neutral. We know this will not be an easy goal to reach as we see some pretty big challenges ahead of us. One challenge we faced, and it's a big one, is how do you heat a cathedral that is over 100 years old? How do we deal with our cathedral's very old infrastructure and yet at the same time do it without disrupting or damaging our beloved character and its architecture? To overcome this challenge, we partnered with a great group of young, bright, enthusiastic Seattle University senior engineering students. And these students will help, along with their professors, help us identify and evaluate new carbon neutral heating and cooling technologies that we could possibly use here at the cathedral.
Welcome to St. James Cathedral Kitchen Garden. My name is Lonnie Larson. I work here at St. James and have the privilege of overseeing this beautiful space.
Hi, my name is Ruben Deanda. I'm a parishioner at St. James Cathedral and volunteer. Today I would like to share with you a few words about our Care for Creation team. Our team formed shortly before Laudato Si was published June of 2015. You may wonder about a few examples of activities that we have designed to educate, inspire, motivate our communities to respond to the Pope's encyclical. They include our Eco Fair 2016 to 2019, our Eco Retreat, March of 2018, engagement with other faith communities like Earth Ministries, tours like the Duwamish Tour and the Transfer Station and Recycling Center, participating and presenting at national conferences sponsored by the USCCB, neighborhood cleanup, participation in Earth Day's Northwest program where Cathedral Earth Day Northwest Covenant was created and published on our Cathedral website, Season of Creation liturgies, land awareness, which is integrated into the Cathedral life. St. James Cathedral is founding partner of the Care for Creation Network, which includes IPJC, CLU, and other institutions. We've also provide tips that go into the bulletin to reduce carbon footprint.
Before Ruben shared about education and formation at St. James, I'd introduce the notion that missionary discipleship is a model for the work that we are doing. We not only have encounters and disturbances that cause us to have compassion for the world, but we are also called to respond, to act on behalf of the earth, our common home. Those responses, those actions, are the third theme to having a successful Care for Creation ministry. And the last theme is to gather together, to celebrate all the good things that we are and that we do together. As Bishop Eusebio says whenever he is presiding at a confirmation mass, rejoice! For those of you who are interested in starting a Care for Creation ministry in your own parish, I'd suggest 4 easy steps. First, talk to your pastor. Next, make announcements at Mass, inviting anyone to join you and to let them know that anyone can work to offset the negative impacts of the climate crisis. Thirdly, gather together to pray, to be educated and formed, and to learn ways to respond and act. And then lastly, enter into the Laudato Si action platform. Again, commit to the work, form a group, create a transformative, non-violent action plan, implement, assess, and adjust your actions, and of course, celebrate your success. I'd also encourage you to join St. James Cathedral, many other parishes, institutions, and universities from across Western Washington who have come together as the Creation Care Network. Together, we work to address the climate crisis. We are committed to environmental justice and human dignity with a focus on marginalized groups. We attend to issues affecting future generations, and we articulate care for creation as an essential dimension of Catholic identity. In the beginning of the book of Genesis, God created the world in 7 days. At the end of each of those days, God looks upon what has been created, and God saw that it was good. When God had finished, God saw everything that was made, and indeed, it was very good. May we care for all living beings and for the earth, for all of creation are our sisters and brothers. Like God, may we see that all that has been created is indeed very good. Thank you.
Hello, my brothers and sisters in Christ. I'm Aileen Carrell from St. Charles Borromeo Parish in Tacoma, Washington. First, I want to thank Archbishop Achin and the Bishops of Washington State for hosting this conference. I also want to thank the team from the Washington State Catholic Conference for inviting me to speak about Respect Life Ministries. I'm humbled to represent the many good people who run Respect Life Ministries in Catholic churches across the state. As my mom told me many years ago, God calls us to serve as his hands, feet, and mouth on this earth at this time. Each person is uniquely called to minister to God's people in some way. For those called to speak for the unborn, to act for a mother in difficult circumstances, or to minister to the vulnerable who are sick or aged or dying, this workshop is for you. At our parish, we didn't invent the idea of Respect Life Ministries. Rather, we formed to include the efforts related to the array of issues surrounding life and to make them visible to the fellow parishioners at our church. When we started our group, we assured our pastor that we would be compassionate, truthful, loving, and respectful, and not divisive. Our main mission was, and still is, to educate our parish, to share the truth, walk with moms and babies, and witness to the public. And we do this in 3 key ways. First, through education and prayer. Well, prayer is the most important part, so we start first with prayer. We have a long-standing program called Spiritual Adoption, and it's a 10-month prayer ministry where individuals or families can pray for a baby in danger of abortion. We can hand out, or we do hand out, prayer cards with a little prayer that can be said daily. There's even space to add a baby's name. And we post information every month in our vestibules throughout the church, and the baby's development per month. And we do this for 10 months, from January until October, which is Respect Life Month, and then we host a baby shower. So it's a great way to educate our parish and also support the ministries that support other people. We also provide a choice of Catholic pamphlets on natural family planning, abortion, and euthanasia. We have links and information and resources on our website and our social media pages. We post information and engagement opportunities in our parish bulletin. On occasion, we even have prayer vigils for life with adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. And we have had a life conference once before. Those are some of the education opportunities. Second, we have support resources for women in unplanned pregnancies. In our parish, we have a Gabriel Project. This is very similar to the statewide Prepares program, whereby a mother in crisis pregnancy calls our parish. She gets signed up with a Gabriel angel to walk with her through the process of prenatal visits or resources like rental assistance or utility assistance or any other kinds of needs. And we walk with those families or those moms and the babies from conception through 5 years and even beyond. In our parish, we've probably helped over 50 women in crisis pregnancy. We help them also through our annual baby shower related to our spiritual adoption program. And we collect things like diapers and wipes and cribs and strollers, those kinds of needs that people have. And we deliver those to crisis pregnancy centers or to nonprofits that assist people who are in need. We also have recommend to our parish if they need help with post-abortive healing. We include the Project Rachel program in lots of places in our parish. We also created a resource guide that is available for the Tacoma-Pierce County area. We have it in our parish. We hand it out to a lot of pregnancy aid places. It includes women's trusted healthcare resources, pregnancy support services, family resources. So it's a quick guide of really trusted resources for people in our area so that women can get quality assistance and make a choice for life. The last thing we do is advocacy efforts, where we encourage our parishioners to engage in the public square. We fast and pray and support sidewalk efforts where we witness in front of abortion clinics. We do that through 40 Days for Life campaign in the spring and in the fall. We encourage our parishioners to attend the March for Life, which is an annual legislative rally in Olympia. It coincides with the Washington legislative session. And we send a bus, we rent a bus or charter it, and the Knights of Columbus, thankfully, sponsor it. And we get parishioners, including our junior high students, to travel down to Olympia. They pray the rosary. We send prayer intentions from our parish with a banner that these same people will carry at the March for Life. And when they're at the march, they can meet with or write or call their legislators on current legislative priorities. We also encourage our parishioners to participate in Catholic Advocacy Day, where they can meet with their legislators on certain life issues. We also sometimes provide signature gathering for pro-life legislative initiatives and referendums. And we also have a list of resources that we provide to our parish whenever they might need that on our website. Today we're going to include a slide for you that has these kinds of resources so that we can be developing as we're formed as disciples of life for life and justice. I want to mention that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has a great website with lots of resources. This one's called Planned Parenthood, Setting the Record Straight. It's a great Q&A, and it also is very well cited and notated so that you can know that the information is verified. The Washington State Catholic Conference has also really great information that's state-based legislation, and I should say both of those sites provide for you to register for action alerts. The St. Charles website will be listed, and anything that I've mentioned here will be listed on our website. You can also engage with Human Life of Washington or the Family Policy Institute of Washington. And you can also sign up for a newsletter from the Washington State March for Life so you can be informed when that rally is going to take place come January or February of this year. To wrap up, these are just a few of the ways that we support pro-life efforts. There are more ideas and different approaches possible. I encourage you to look into your own parish's committees or to check other websites of other parishes or start your own Respect Life committee if your parish doesn't have one. We will pray for you. Please pray for us as we help families and babies. And in the end, I'd like to read a little something from the Prepare's website. Everyone in a parish should know where to refer a pregnant woman in need. Pope Francis calls our parishes, calls each of us as disciples of Christ, to be islands of mercy in the midst of a sea of indifference. God bless us all, and thank you.
IPJC is an organization that works for justice.
It's kind of like a web of love when you express and expands and touches each and every one of us.
IPJC acts for justice in the church and in the world. And what that means is that we work for systemic change.
I'm Samantha Yanity. I'm IPJC's Justice Educator.
My name is Giselle Carcamo. I am the Justice for Women Coordinator.
I'm Sister Judy Byron, and I have been here at IPJC for the past 23 years. It was in the late 80s, and the religious communities here in this area, the Seattle area, came together to say, what can we do together that, no one of us is going to do alone? And they decided they would found the Intercommunity Peace and Justice Center to do systemic change.
The work they do is helping because they actually bring people in and can change minds.
Well, I think our Justice Cafes, what I like about them is they kind of follow a See, Judge, Act circle. So first you're looking at the issue at hand. Then you're thinking, what is it about this issue that stirs something within me? How can I respond to it? What makes it unjust? And then from there, that kind of fire that is burning kind of pushes people into action.
It's just about so many people coming together for something that they know can give to a next generation. We just need a chance to grow together, being able to experience different cultures, meshing and sharing stories.
There are other programs in IPJC that tackle other parts of the system, the people who already have power, or the younger generations. I particularly work with the immigrant women because it's so very, very obvious that when you invest in one woman, you're invested in a family and then in the community. The women who have crossed the borders, the women who have survived violence, the women who are working in the fields. They are the experts, not us, not me.
Que hicimos cuestionarios y nos dimos cuenta que aquí ocupan mucho sobre la salud mental, mucho apoyo. Entonces nos enfocamos más en eso. Ese propósito Dios lo tenía para mí porque como yo soy sobreviviente al mismo tiempo y yo quería ayudar de una forma u otra, me di cuenta que al dar mi testimonio iba a ayudar también y lo di y mucha gente se identificó.
One of the things I would say that we work with corporations and on justice issues, on their corporate policies and practices. But when I first started in 1998, we had a resolution with Procter & Gamble. And lo and behold, the CEO, John Pepper, flew out to Spokane in his corporate jet. The airport was probably just big enough to hold it. And when we were talking with him, he was trying to understand our issue. And then we asked him, why would you come here to talk to us? And he said, a CEO told him about 5 years into his tenure as a CEO that if the nuns bring an issue to you, you better pay attention because I can tell you that within 5 years, it's probably going to be an issue in your boardroom.
As a donor, people can band together by your time, by your talent, but by your treasure also.
My dream for the future is obviously we need more young adults involved.
I have never stopped dreaming. I don't have to invest a lot of energy in outreach because I do believe in the program. I've seen the magic. I know the face of empowerment. And I want you to see that as well.
Somehow we need to talk about how much we love and value our youth. I know I have like 14 grandnieces and nephews and really want them to have a future where they can thrive, and we're going to have to support them to do that and feel that, this time we've got to get it right.
It's nice to have someone dream with you. We can't make the impossible ask or the big dreams without someone who puts that fire behind you.
The fruit that staff brings forward is just tremendous. Talk about bang for your buck. That cannot be done without the funds from those who give. So that's why I give, and that's why I hope others will also give.
What kind of future do you want, and who do you want to be part of that story?
Remembering that one little drop in the water radiates out and affects all of us, that's what IPJC does.
I want you to believe in the power of people being together and working together towards the common good. Because the more we believe, the more change can happen.
Hello, Cornerstone 2021. It is great to be with you all. My name is Will Rutt. I serve as the Executive Director of the Intercommunity Peace and Justice Center in Seattle. We are honored to participate on this advocacy ministry panel and thankful for our continued partnership with the Washington State Catholic Conference. We at IPJC are committed to building community and creating change. All of this is grounded in relationship with the just, merciful, and loving God. We hope the video you just watched gives you a sense of the spirit of IPJC's work. My hope today is to highlight different ways that we want to collaborate and partner with you. Two of our primary programs at IPJC are our Women's Justice Circles and the Northwest Coalition for Responsible Investment. Over the last 21 years, we have walked with over 300 small groups of women across the Northwest and the world. Recently, communities have created mental health support groups, advocated for increased language access at school, and organized to help their community to get access to vital relief funds. Northwest CRY has been bringing Catholic moral authority to boardrooms for over 20 years. Our members hold advocacy investment accounts that allow them to engage directly with corporations around racism, environmental justice, and many other issues. We also have a number of publications that help to educate and inform the community, including our long-running A Matter of Spirit, a quarterly justice magazine, as well as our newest edition, Justice Rising, a podcast that works towards healing, reconciliation, and transformation, one conversation at a time. We also have a library of justice formation guides. And most recently, we produced a 4-part series, Breaking Open the Bishop's Pastoral Letter on Racism, titled Open Wide Our Hearts. We have engaged in both state and federal advocacy, and we are currently working on a number of issues. Join our campaign to end Title 42 as we walk with asylum seekers to restore their right to seek asylum, and join in solidarity with the Filipino community to pass the Philippine Human Rights Act, to cut off funding to the oppressive Duterte administration. At the local level, we help to gather people of goodwill committed to working for justice. As part of that work, we participate and support a number of local and regional groups, including a group of Northern Deanery parishes working towards racial solidarity, the Collaborative Organizing for Racial Equity, in partnership with Jesuit Ministries in Seattle, and the Care for Creation Network. If your community is interested in being represented in one of these groups, please reach out to us. Hopefully, this brief overview of our work is inspiring and energizing. There are lots of ways you can get involved listed here, all of which can be found on our website. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or want to get involved. I want to close by sharing from Pope Francis's book, Let Us Dream. He says, we need a movement of people who know we need each other, who have a sense of responsibility to others and to the world. We hope you join us in building a movement of love together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Cotton, and I'm the Director of Pastoral Care and Outreach for the Archdiocese of Seattle. And I just want to welcome you all to participating in the Cornerstone Conference for Life and Justice. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about both our Archdiocesan Criminal Justice Ministry and our efforts to promote the end of the death penalty, which is one of many life issues and justice issues that we want to address as the Catholic Church in Western Washington. And so I want to start by just telling you about our local criminal justice ministry. Here in the Archdiocese, we have a pretty robust criminal justice ministry. It is comprised of 3 different core parts, if you will, or core pillars. The first is our Catholic chaplaincy in all the various prisons and jails and juvenile detention facilities all throughout Western Washington. We're in about 25 facilities in our Archdiocese. 9 of those are Department of Corrections prisons, and we actually have paid staff chaplains on behalf of the Catholic Church that go into all 9 of those facilities. And there they provide one-on-one pastoral care to our loved ones who are incarcerated. They provide access to Eucharist and the Mass by coordinating priests to come in to be able to provide that for the people there. If priests are not available, they put on communion services. We offer prayer services, retreats, all those kinds of things so that people who are incarcerated can encounter Christ through the church, that they can experience healing mediated, the healing of Christ mediated through our ministers and through the many volunteers that work with them to go in and provide that care and that support. And between, we've probably got over 150 or so volunteers that normally work with our chaplains. Of course, COVID has interrupted that a little bit, and now in all of our facilities, volunteers are not able to go in, and so they are waiting patiently to be able to go back in. But in the meantime, our staff chaplains both in the prisons and in the jails, are still working to provide that access and that care. In our jails, those positions are funded by the deaneries, and they're still blocked from going in. My DOC chaplains can still go on the inside, but my deanery chaplains are still blocked. But they've been able to pivot as well, and they've been able to do some video visits to stay in touch with people on the inside. Sometimes they've made YouTube videos to send in, or they've written reflections that get sent in and passed around. So we are finding a way to continue the ministry forward, even with the COVID limitation. But the core of it is we provide chaplaincy in as many facilities in Western Washington as we can, and we want to be able to help foster and facilitate healing and wholeness for the people there. The second initiative that we offer through Criminal Justice Ministry is our reentry initiative, and that is the way in which we support returning citizens, those who have served their time, they're coming back to our communities. We as the church in Western Washington want to show up for people in that position and to be able to offer support. The way we have chosen to do that is through an initiative called One Parish, One Prisoner, and we partner with a nonprofit organization called Underground Ministries to help us accomplish that effort. One Parish, One Prisoner is about pairing parishes with a single prison resident. And the reason we do that is because we found out that, roughly speaking, there's about the same number of prison residents in Washington State as there are churches. And that means there's a resurrection community for every person leaving prison in Washington State. So we're in the process of mobilizing parishes to respond. And so we make that connection where a parish can be connected with someone. They can write letters back and forth while the person is still incarcerated. They can go on visits, whether it's video visits for right now or in-person visits when those are allowed. Develop that mutual relationship with the idea that when the person releases, they release to the waiting embrace of an entire parish community that already knows them and is in relationship with them and can help them navigate the many barriers to reentry. And so we have all kinds of materials and structures and resources to equip parishes like yours, I hope, to engage in that relationship and to be transformed by it as you enter into kinship and mutuality with someone in this situation. If you want to learn more about that, please let me know, because I would love to get your parish involved. And lastly, we're involved in the promotion of restorative justice and restorative justice peace circles as an alternative way of responding to harm and crime, a way that I think is more aligned with the gospel, because it is an approach that is not really based in punishment, but an approach that's about healing for all. So our current criminal justice system has a lot to do with wanting to punish people who caused harm. And restorative justice is not so much about the punishment of one, but it's interested in the healing of all. It's interested in the healing of victims and survivors of crimes, and how do we wrap around them and meet their needs, but also recognizing that people who cause those harms are doing so because they're transmitting their pain and their trauma that hasn't been healed yet. So how do we journey with victims and survivors to heal their trauma, but then also journey with people that have caused harm to help them heal the underlying traumas and backgrounds that's leading to why that is happening in the first place, and also seeking healing for the community at large that has been affected by these things. And so we have a model to do that here. In fact, through Catholic Mobilizing Network, which is one of our partners in this effort, we just released this new resource called Paths of Renewed Encounter, a restorative justice engagement guide for Catholic communities. I can make this available to you if you're interested, but it will talk about the principles of restorative justice, circles as a practice of alternatively responding to crime and harm, and hopefully transforming our criminal justice system into a more holistic, healing, compassionate response to crime and harm, as opposed to the way we do it now, where we tend to transmit harm and cause more pain and more suffering. And that's not really what the gospel is about. So those are our three initiatives. One of the other things that we do is we work on the death penalty, which again is a life issue. And of course, the church takes a very clear stance on the death penalty, saying that the death penalty is not an okay response to crime and harm. That, responding to, even if the crime and harm is very serious, to respond with killing another, that's not aligned with church teaching. That's not a pro-life reality. In fact, recently Pope Francis had the death penalty declared inadmissible. And he approved a new revision of paragraph 2267 of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, where he named the death penalty as inadmissible because of the fact that we are so committed to being pro-life as a church and to responding in a different way, in a way rooted in compassion, understanding, love, in God's ways, which is not about exacting revenge or eye for an eye. That's not who we really are as a church. And so we work to end the death penalty. Washington State, as you know, has abolished the death penalty. In 2018, the state Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional. So now we join about 23 other states right now that have abolished the death penalty. There are 3 others that have a moratorium on it, and then others that are still engaging in the practice. So with our partnership with Catholic Mobilizing Network, we are trying to work state by state to soften hearts and encourage people to acknowledge the underlying pro-life issue, to recognize Christ even in those who have caused harm, and to respond differently, again, in that way of restoration and that way of healing for all, survivors and perpetrators and everybody impacted. And that's the gospel that we want to support. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I encourage you to go to www.catholicsmobilizing.org to learn more. And lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about our work with the Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition, which we are a part of here in the Archdiocese of Seattle. The Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition cobbles together prison ministries like our own here in the Archdiocese of Seattle, but along with all the other dioceses around the nation that are doing this kind of ministry, connecting us together, as well as Catholic nonprofits doing this work, like the Jesuit Restorative Justice Initiative or Homeboy Industries down in California, other entities that are doing this work. But we're all coming together and we're networking, we're resourcing, we're sharing best practices. The Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition offers monthly webinars, monthly virtual town halls that you can become a part of, a way to really inform yourself around this world and the Catholic Church's work in this world, with the idea that we could equip and prepare you to enter into that direct relationship with people who are incarcerated or people who are impacted by crime in any way. We need more and more of you as the body of Christ to show up on the margins, in jails and prisons, in peacemaking circles with people who have experienced harm, doing re-entry and engaging in that relationship with people coming out of prisons. So we want to activate you. So if you want to learn more about the Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition, that is www.catholicprisonministries.org, and you can get more information there. If you're interested in wanting to become part of our local criminal justice ministry, please contact me, Joe Cotton. I can be reached at joe.cotton@seattlearch.org or 206-382-4847. Thank you so much for attending Cornerstone. Thank you for advocating for justice and life, especially as it relates to our loved ones who are impacted by incarceration. Thank you, and God bless.
Hi, my name is Chris Koehler, and I'm the director of the Immigrant Assistance Ministry at St. James Cathedral. I've been asked to share with you about our ministry, how it ties to advocacy, and how similar ministries can get started at other parishes. I want to start by grounding us in our faith and values. As Catholics, we are called to speak out on issues of justice and to stand in solidarity with people on the margins, including migrants and refugees. Let us remember that Jesus not only ministered on the margins, but as a Jew from Galilee, he was from the margins himself. And when the Holy Family fled to Egypt to escape persecution, they were refugees. Our call to solidarity with migrants goes much deeper. Since the time of Abraham, the history of our faith is a history of migration in all its forms. Economic and climate migration to Egypt, wandering the desert as refugees, forced migration to Babylon. The list goes on and on. We are a church without borders. We recognize Christ in the migrant, and we respond by welcoming, protecting, promoting, and helping immigrants to become full members of our communities. Relationships and community are at the core of what we do and why we do it. Tutoring provides an opportunity for two people from diverse backgrounds to grow in understanding and appreciation of each other, as well as to be of service to each other. The services we provide help refugees and immigrants to become more fully involved with and build connections in their new community. So a little background. The Immigrant Assistance Ministry started in 1975 with 5 Vietnamese refugees and 1 retired sister, Sister Terrence Riley, who was a reading specialist. As she told me when we first met, we did not start with grand visions or detailed plans. We simply responded to those in need who knocked on our door. And so it started with English tutoring. But during the 1980s, it attempted all sorts of services, including helping to find food, clothing, housing and jobs, as well as learn English. Well, they had bitten off more than they could chew, and in 1985 returned to a focus on teaching English. In addition to individual tutoring, other types of English instruction were offered over the years, such as conversation groups, as well as learning English through yoga, CPR, and public speaking. We've always relied largely on the talent of the volunteers wanting to help. Volunteers continue to provide and fill a variety of roles beyond tutoring. They help out in the office with fundraising and communications, and so on. We serve refugees and immigrants from all over the world. Last year, they came from 53 countries, spoke 35 languages, and ranged in age from the early 20s to late 80s. Some have very little English, while others are more advanced. Some need help getting ready for their citizenship interview. Others want to be able to speak with their kids' teachers, or make doctor's appointments, or learn how to ride the bus. They come to us with both short-term goals and long-range dreams. Our volunteers accompany them along the way, helping them to adjust to life in the U.S. more than simply learning the language. And some of them become lifelong friends. So what specifically does St. James Cathedral Immigrant Assistance do? Well, we do these 5 things, basically. ESL tutoring, where immigrants work together with their tutor and our staff to develop an individualized plan of instruction. Citizenship preparation, where immigrants prepare for their naturalization interview by learning U.S. civics and history and doing some interview practice as well, again through individual tutoring. Naturalization assistance. So we have staff who are accredited by the Department of Justice to help people complete and submit their N-400 naturalization applications for United States citizenship. Refugee welcome and inclusion, where we have a team of parishioners who support newly arrived refugee families. And advocacy and awareness raising. They would do that through action alerts and presentations and events and other activities. So I just want to step back for a minute and think about all of that together. For us, parish social justice ministries create a more just world by living out what it means to be church in the world. That leads us to ask, what is our vision of a just world? Who is the church? And how do we live out our faith? When we do that last one, how do we live out our faith? We do that by being in solidarity, by centering immigrants in all we do. We speak along with, we give or share with, and we walk alongside immigrants. Advocate, educate, donate, and volunteer. All of that is grounded in theology and Catholic social teaching, especially knowing the other, putting the other first, and being in community with the other. Solidarity is at the center. Solidarity is a commitment to the common good. When we share our time and talent with another, we walk with them in solidarity. When we advocate with elected representatives in Congress, the state legislature, school boards, union leaders, community associations, and others, that's when we extend our solidarity to all and commit to the common good. To stand in solidarity is to raise our voices and raise up the voices of those who too often go unheard, unseen, and ignored. Or worse yet, are used as scapegoats. In the cacophony of the public sphere, prophetic voices stand out. When we advocate, we issue a clarion call to justice. When Sister Terence talked about starting this ministry, she had it right. We start by responding to what is being asked of us, and that starts with encounter. For her, it was meeting those 5 Vietnamese gentlemen and then listening to them. If you want to get started in a similar ministry, go to the margins. Encounter immigrants and refugees where they are. And while that may be in the pew next to you, it could also be at resettlement agencies, immigration advocacy networks, nonprofits helping immigrants. It could also be your PTA or your favorite restaurant. First, get to know immigrants and refugees and begin building lasting relationships. Ask questions and listen deeply. Be led by what they ask of you. Then reach out to other parishioners and invite them to join you. Sister Terence would tell you, you don't need grand visions or detailed plans. And if you are not sure where to start, call or email me and I'll help connect you. Thank you for your time today. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or my staff if you have any questions. We're happy to help in whatever way we can.
Welcome to the presentation on the ministry, charism, and the spirituality of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul is a Catholic lay organization grounded in the spirituality of St. Vincent de Paul. We serve all of our neighbors with the unconditional love and mercy of Jesus Christ. We advocate for the needs of those we visit. At the heart of our mission is a ministry of presence and encounter. Our home visit ministry allows us to be in proximity with the poor Jesus who thirsts for companionship and a listening ear. We provide tangible goods when able, bringing always ourselves first. In doing this, we grow spiritually. In this image, you will see Frederick Ozanam at the center, holding the hand of a woman he's visiting, probably on his way home from the university where he was teaching. He went to the Sorbonne at the age of 19, a brilliant man, during a real hard time in France. And his fellow students, some of them challenged him and said, you know, it's such a hard time and you are a young Catholic man. How do you live your faith? And he started thinking, how do we make a better society, more inclusive, more caring? Things were very, very hard at that time. And some folks say, go and see Sister Rosalie Rendu, a daughter of Charity. And she taught him a lot of things. The most important thing she taught him is you must go to the poor. You must go and visit them. And in this picture, you can see folks from the village visiting or supporting him really in this ministry. They're bringing books, they're bringing food. I love these words from Frederick Ozanam. He said, "The question which is agitating the world today is a social one. It is a struggle between those who have nothing and those who have too much. It is a violent clash of opulence and poverty, which is shaking the ground under our feet. Our duty as Christians is to throw ourselves between these two camps in order to accomplish by love what justice alone cannot do." In these words, you can sense just the suffering of, seeing a society, his beloved France, in such a moment in history where, in many ways, it's a society that's not much different than what we are living today, with areas of our society that there's such opulence, to use his word, and other areas with much poverty. And also you can sense how he grew in his ministry and understanding of the work to be done, which was to love in such a way that we become Christ for others. This image of Mother Teresa of Calcutta, where she's caught in the moment with this child, where she's one with this child, where she is Christ for this child. And in some ways, she recognizes Christ in this child as well. It is the same spirit that moved her with such love and compassion that also infused St. Vincent de Paul and Frederick Ozanam and Blessed Rosalie Rendu and all of us who are here today. It is that spirit that is in us from our baptism that called us to love, and to love with the love of Jesus Christ. Some of these words from Blessed Rosalie Rendu, you can almost imagine Mother Teresa of Calcutta also saying them, and vice versa. The words from Mother Teresa of Calcutta could very well have been the words of Blessed Rosalie Rendu. So Rosalie Rendu told us that she said, "Never have I prayed so well as in the streets." She knew that the call to go out to love and serve the Lord meant that she must go to the streets and find the poor, find Jesus in the poor. She also said, "Hunt down poverty to give humanity its dignity." Mother Teresa said, "I see God in every human being. When I wash the leper's wounds, I feel I am nursing the Lord himself. Isn't it not a beautiful experience?" The truth is that caring for the poor and loving the poor, it can be hard, but it is our call. And in these words from the Apostle of Charity, St. Vincent de Paul himself, we see how he also struggled, because once you're in relationship with the poor, the lens in which you see life and society changes. He said, "Deal with the most urgent needs, organize charity so that it is more efficient, teach reading and writing, educate with the aim of giving each the means of self-support, intervene with authorities to obtain reform in structure. There is no charity without justice." And I think that Pope Francis kind of also helps us process some of these incredible words. In Fratelli Tutti most recently, Pope says that we must aim for a new kind of politics. In this, he means being actively engaged in our communities and working together for policies that protect human dignity. He says we must respond to the gospel call to love our neighbors when we overcome our divisions and polarization in order to find creative solutions for the common good. Let me read that again. He means being actively engaged in our communities and working together for policies that protect human dignity. We respond to the gospel call to love our neighbors when we overcome our divisions and polarization in order to find creative solutions for the common good. In order for this to become a reality, we must actively work towards breaking down barriers that have divided us in the past and to engage in dialogue across perspectives in order that social love can inspire new ways of approaching the problems of today's world, of profoundly renewing structures, social organizations, and legal systems from within. I think this is an expansion of what St. Vincent de Paul was saying to us in the slide before, right? That, you know, charity, it has to go beyond just the charity, right? It has to go into the area of justice, of advocacy, because when you really are in relationship with the poor, when you are in love with the poor in such a way that you recognize Christ in them, that relationship, that encounter transforms you. And you are called to be the voice for those who are voiceless. And so I know that the conference we are here today for Cornerstone, Forming Disciples for Life and Justice, is really calling us to take a deeper look, right, at our ministry and how we do our ministries and how it needs to take us into advocating for the poor as well. Thank you.